Okay, welcome everyone to Progress Ahead Life Coaching very first Smoothie Talk. Today I have the absolute privilege of speaking with a very impressive young man from the Northwest Coast, Bob Bramley. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you for inviting me along.
No, look, you're welcome, absolutely. In the theme of Smoothie Talk, I've prepared some smoothies here today which are all full of nutritious natural ingredients, and this is one that I call Blue Skies, which I thought was appropriate for today.
Pretty appropriate, yeah.
Yeah, so by all means, use that to fuel yourself up during the interview.
No, thank you.
Bob, you circumnavigated Australia solo by aircraft, which is a massive achievement, I think, for anyone, let alone someone your age. Look, seriously, congratulations.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, it was one hell of an undertaking, 15 months of planning, and it took $27,000 to pull off, and managed to raise about $17,000 for Beyond Blue, our mental health partner.
That's amazing.
No, thank you.
Seriously, well done. A lot of us have ambitions and things that we're really keen to do, but it's taking the steps to turn our ambitions into reality. So I imagine at some point you had this plan to do this. So how did you make it go from ambition to real?
Yeah, for me it was a case, I started learning to fly in July of 2017, so 2 years ago now. And, for many years beforehand, it was an idea, it was something that I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to become a pilot, but I didn't know how.
Uh-huh.
And so in May of 2017, I met a guy named Ollie O'Halloran, who was on this final leg of his circumnavigation trip, which was from Devonport back to Hobart, where he lives.
Uh-huh.
And it was a real eye-opener for me into aviation and light aircraft, and it was the first ever opportunity I had to get involved with the Devonport Aero Club as well. And so from there, I had, 2 months later, started my flying training, and in about January of 2018, I went, hang on, well, if Ollie can do it, why can't I? And so instantly I thought, right, that's it, knuckle down, get it all sorted, and go from there, see what we can do with the whole thing.
Excellent. So the whole, once you said, if he can do it, I can do it, then you've made the decision that you're going to do it?
Yeah, I looked at it, and I had a bit of a look into the logistics of it and how it would work and what I had to do over the next 12 to 15 months to get it going. And originally the planned departure was going to be January of 2019. And when it got closer to the date, about 10 days out from departure, I looked at the weather in the north of the country and went, no, this is way too unsafe to be doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. All right. And then away, right? And then once you've made the decision, then it's about taking action.
Yeah, that was it. That was, from there, looking at how everything was going and how it was, having a schedule of where I had to be each month. And, sometimes they're a little bit behind, so I had to catch up more in the next month. So I had to make more funding, or I had to do a bit more training, or a bit more, practical flying, or there's all sorts of stuff I had to be doing instead.
Yeah. Look, that's awesome. Well done.
No,
and the name Surviving Turbulence, I love the name. I love the title because I think it's something we can all relate to in some form. And when you're up in the air and you're on your own, and you're striking turbulence, you need to sort of deal with that yourself.
Yeah. It took us ages to come up with a name. I had a group of people that were thinking of names for me as well, and it took us so long to eventually come around to something that we were all happy with. And this name, Surviving Turbulence, just sort of fell on my lap, and at first I looked at it and went, okay, well, we'll see what else comes along. And then about 2 weeks afterwards, I just went, nah, that's the name. It's something that affects me as a pilot, flying the aeroplane, but also that everybody in everyday life, experiences as well. The turbulence of mental health is a big thing in our society.
Yeah. Look, indeed it is. So when you're up in the air and you strike some turbulence, what are you learning? What's it teaching you?
Yeah, so for me, every bit of turbulence is different while flying. You've got to learn to deal with it in its own separate way. It's not always the same. And it's the same with mental health. It's always going to affect different people differently.
Yeah.
And it's always going to have a different spin-off to the people around them. Some people have mental health problems and no one around them will know. But for other people, it'll really affect the people around them.
Yeah.
And it can get really bad. And, for us as a culture, I think that mental health doesn't get the spotlight that it needs. Because, if you break your leg, you go to the doctor, you get a cast, you get it fixed. But mental health, people don't feel that they can go and talk to somebody about it because of the age-old stigma of, oh, they're weak, they're just messing around, and they're not, it's not real. And it's such a big thing that's still in our society today, which I thought was the message behind my trip. Was I couldn't talk to every person, I couldn't speak to every family or counsel every person, but to be creating awareness of this problem and breaking that stigma, I thought was the big step that I could make with the journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I agree entirely, and the thing that strikes me about my experience with dealing with mental health is that it doesn't discriminate.
Yeah.
Between people, it's not just rich or poor or
exactly
black
right.
or white or whatever. Someone that we know may well be suffering from mental health. It could be the joker at work. It could be the person we see is really successful. It could be the person that we see is really those sort of things happen. That's turbulence. We survive it. We throw
everything.
the phone out.
There's all sorts of problems. It doesn't discriminate between people. There's always going to be something affecting someone. As you said, it's not rich or poor people that it affects. It's not particular people around the place. It's here in Australia today, 8 people will take their lives in every day, of which 6 of those will be male. And you don't hear about it. You hear about car crashes, or you'll hear about all these other things going on, but you don't hear about mental health and how that's affecting people. Yeah.
No, look, I think you're absolutely spot on, and I see your strong passion for the prevention of youth suicide, and in my experience, in my primary role, in my occupation, and basically in life itself, it's my belief, and I'll just share this with you, and to be interested on your thoughts. The people, when they're thinking about suicide, it's not an option that they actually want to take. It's the turbulence in their life that they want to end, not their life itself.
That's exactly right. For a lot of people, I find that through talking with families and things along the way, suicide was a case that it was what was felt like the only way out. It was the only way that they could escape it, the only way that they could hide from it anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's really sad. It's just that there was nothing else that these people could go to. No one else that they felt like they could talk to.
Yeah.
And
so, what's your message in regard to that now?
Well, in regards to that, I originally, for me, I was one of these kids that didn't think that mental health was really such a big issue. I didn't think much on it until 2017, and 2 close friends to me attempted to take their own lives within 3 weeks of each other. Okay. And the profound effect that it had on me was huge. You never quite know what's going to come next. For one of them, I knew they were having a bit of trouble with their mental health, but the other, I had no idea. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, they were contacting me and talking to me, and I heard all this stuff about them trying to take their own life, and I went, what? That's not like this person at all. It's for people in our society. I think the one thing that we need to do before we can make this any better is talking to, is talking between each other and breaking that stigma.
Yeah.
Because I feel that stigma is what's stopping us as a nation from moving ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that stigma is definitely weakening. I think that stigma is a lot less powerful than it used to be. Yeah.
But it's still there, though, is the problem. And until that stigma is completely broken down, we're going to struggle as a nation for people to be able to come forward and talk about these things.
Yeah, I agree, and we shouldn't rest until we've broken that completely.
Well, that's exactly right. And unfortunately, there's always going to be people around that are going to look at this and go, that they're just weak and, that sort of thing. Yeah. But it's not the case at all. No. People... As slowly over time, we've done really great in the last few years as to bringing more people away from that sort of mindset. But there's still more we can do.
Yeah.
And for me, I won't be stopping, campaigning for youth suicide and suicide prevention in general until we can break that number right down. Instead of 8 people a day, bring that down to, close to zero. We want it at zero.
We might as well aim for zero.
Well, aim for zero and see how far we can get.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the thing about turbulence in our life is it's not, in my view, it's very rarely permanent.
Yeah.
It's a temporary thing.
Mm.
And turbulence, you talk about turbulence as a pilot, and everything's different, and every bit of turbulence you relate to a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So is it fair to say that when you strike turbulence as a pilot, that it is forcing you to upskill on your skills as a pilot?
Exactly. Well, as a pilot, you know, we hit turbulence, you've got to be a lot more hands-on, you've got to be focusing in a lot more on the flying. Whereas with mental health and things, you know, it's the same. Everybody has it a little bit differently. It's not one standard thing that's going to affect everybody the same. You know, everybody's going to be challenged by it differently.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
So, but when we strike this turbulence, when you've been through some turbulence, you're on a flight and you go through some turbulence, and I haven't dealt with that before, but this is how I cope with it.
Yeah.
Do you find that then upskills you?
Yeah, without a doubt, it
pilot?
makes me stronger and makes me more aware of what's going on.
So in life, when we strike this turbulence, we find a way to deal with it and find people who can help us deal with
Exactly
it.
right.
By reaching out, then we can be stronger for the next challenge.
Well, that's exactly right. You know, I found before my two friends attempted to take their own lives, I knew relatively nothing about suicide and mental health and how it affected people. And then through those two experiences and learning from both of those people, I found that my knowledge lifted greatly and that I was a lot more capable to help the other people around me in case of any of them struggling with mental health issues at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for the people out there watching this interview who are hearing us talk about the turbulence in your life, would you agree that then the turbulence can actually be seen as an opportunity to grow and develop and pick your skills up as opposed to just
exactly right. You know, it's something that people, they can come out of stronger and something that they can, you know, help the other people around them from afterwards. You know, you never know who's affected by mental health around you. And it's surprising, I found that through my journey and talking with things, a lot more people than I would have thought of have been affected by suicide in particular, and, you know, in any way.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's a family member or a friend, or, you know, even just a friend of a friend, somebody distant. It's almost everyone has a connection with suicide in some way, and it's such a huge thing that needs to be dealt with as a nation. Yeah,
and I talked about in a previous video. I talked about mindsets, and if you're on a bus and the bus driver is going down the road and a tyre blows out, and he goes, "Oh my God, a tyre's blown out. We're all going to die." Or he goes, "Oh, it's okay. I've got 3 more tyres. I'm skilled. I know how to deal with this. I can
get it off.
I can manoeuvre the bus safely." Which bus do you want to be on?
Exactly.
You want to be on the one where the guy's composed, where he sees the turbulence as a way to upskill and to get better.
That's exactly
and if
right.
we all do it, it can actually help ourselves deal with turbulence, but then we can help the next person as well.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and if people don't feel like they can deal with it themselves, there's nothing wrong with going and talking to someone. You know, nobody's going to judge you otherwise for going to talk to somebody and seeking help from somebody else.
Yeah. No, look, that's great. That's excellent. No, look, I love your outlook. I love what you've done.
Thank you.
Seriously, you're a very inspiring young man, and I wish you all the best for the future.
No, thank you.
I've just got one more question for you. Now, as a pilot, at airports, what sort of chocolate do they sell?
What sort of chocolate do they sell at airports? Well, it depends if it's on the counter or behind the counter. Hey.
I might put it to you that I think they sell plain chocolate.
Oh, there you go.
No worries. Thanks, Bob.
No, thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.